Hey guys, some more work on the Trackster. One of the problems we're having is that it doesn't charge the battery. I got to do that manually. Let's put a voltage regulator in this thing and see if we can get it working. Thanks for watching. Right here is the factory location of the voltage regulator. This is the original rectifier regulator, and I guess they were kind of iffy. These yellow wires come up off the charge coil into this bus bar and then into the regulator rectifier, and 12 volts comes out. Well, 12 volts is supposed to come out. It doesn't. That ties back into the rest of the electrical system. This is a generic voltage regulator, kind of for a mini bike or universal kind of replacement for a four-wheeler, that kind of thing. I got this from Amazon. I'll throw an affiliate link down below in the description. And the idea here is that we have, and I'll have to look at the diagram, but I think those two wires are the AC that comes in. So they'll hook up to these yellow, and then this is our positive and our negative. There's the wiring diagram. Your red and your green are your positive and negative, and the yellow and white are the AC. And the reason that we've got AC, you're thinking, well, that comes out of a wall socket, not out of a machine. The rotating kind of alternating current built into the engine creates AC waveform that has to go through a regulator rectifier to turn into 13.2 or whatever it's going to be volts to charge the 12 volt battery. Well, let's get some tools organized here and then we'll get this thing mounted and wired up. I know some people don't like the term cold start, but this thing always amazes me how easy it starts when it is cold. I don't even have the choke hooked up to anything. We just give it a few squirts with the primer and that certainly starts easy. What I want to do is get it running, and I want to put the multimeter on these two yellow wires, and I want to see what we're getting for AC voltage before we get too carried away. Because if the stator, which is the part that creates the electricity down in the engine, if that's burned out, then we can put as many voltage regulators as we want on here, and we're not going to get any power out of it. So let me get the cameraman to grab the camera from me, and I'll restart the engine, and then I'll put a meter on there. Got the meter all ready to go. Let's fire this thing back up again. Now you notice that didn't say anything about 12 volts. It was bouncing 4.5, 5.5 volts. So what we've got here, we've got a little bit of a shelf, and looking at it, I don't really want to drill a hole in the firewall if I can avoid it. So what I'm thinking I'm going to do is mount this little thing right under here. That puts all our terminals right at the bus bar, nice and convenient. Gives us our plug-in. There's a cooling fan down in there, so we have air blowing around in this area as well. That should just add a little bit of cooling to the capability of this regulator. As you can see, we do have a little bit of a leak in that exhaust can, but if you go back, I think I showed some of the repair work that I did on that exhaust, and the fact that that can is leaking that little is a good thing. That was a pretty extensive repair that I had to do on that exhaust can. You can see over on this one how it's all kind of rust jacking going on. These cans have an outer kind of stainless steel shell. Then there's a layer of insulating material, and then the inner layer. And what happens is that insulating material gets saturated with water right up against the carbon steel exhaust can, and it rots them out. This is I believe a 1973 or 74 Trackster. So there's been a lot of water held up against that exhaust for a lot of years. When I was running it, it was, you know, I just kind of got going and all of a sudden the top of the exhaust went poof. It was kind of interesting to see. And looking at the model number on the tag here, this is a 1973 Trackster. So let's get the some holes drilled here and we'll get this mounted. Okay, we take a bigger drill bit and we turn it around in the hole. We got these wonderful Canadian Robertson screws. I'm going to just use that to mark. And now we'll go out to the one to the slightly larger than 1/4 inch bit. And you'll notice that this is a much cleaner hole. When you drill a pilot hole and then come out to your final size, you get a much nicer hole than if you just drill a final size. I picked up a bunch of hardware here for this little job. Now let me grab a ratchet and I'll buzz those down. Okay, that's got the voltage regulator solidly mounted. And those were definitely, they were on there. I've pulled the AC leads off of this terminal strip, bus bar, whatever you want to call it, and I'm going to swap out these ring terminals to bullet connectors and then connect it into the wiring harness. And but I'm going to leave everything else, the original stuff here, in place. If I ever decide that I want to put the factory voltage regulator on this, then I could do that fairly easily. Although you'll notice that this has like an automotive style coil in it. Somebody's converted this over to standard points ignition with a ballast resistor instead of using the fancy CDI box that it came from the factory with, which makes this, I don't know about more reliable, but it certainly makes it easier to work on. Well, that type of stripper does not want to work on the, so I think that's a Teflon coated wire of some sort, but I do happen to have this style. Hopefully this will work better. These are a cheap knockoff of, I'm guessing, a Wiss or some kind of crimper that I picked up, again, my favorite place to shop, Amazon.com, and throw a link down in the description if you're interested. It's a ratcheting crimper, and it won't release until you've crimped hard enough. At least that's the theory. Now, of course, I made the mistake of not putting the heat shrink on beforehand, but it will fit over top, so that's fine. This is marine grade heat shrink, and the difference between marine grade and regular heat shrink is this has glue on the inside. So when I heat this up, you're actually going to see almost looks like hot glue squeezing out of the ends. Makes it a watertight connection, so you don't have to worry about moisture getting in and corroding the wires. This time I'm going to remember to put it on beforehand. This is the other end, and these are our two wires. These are conventional PVC insulators, so I think we can probably just... Or the advantage using this style of stripper is that it doesn't cut the conductors. It just strips the insulation off. And that works fine on this style, but on this kind of Teflon or whatever kind of high temperature wire this is, the teeth on this stripper weren't able to get a good enough grab to be able to pull the insulation apart. Now, I don't need to worry about polarity with AC signals. There isn't really a positive and a negative. So that has our AC side connected up. That is our ground wire there. So that's going to go to the green, and the red is going to attach to this white one that goes back into the electrical system. Now the tricky part here is that we want to make sure that the positive lead doesn't have the raw bullet on it. We want to make sure that we put a female lead on this wire. And one thing I forgot to mention is we do have the battery disconnected, so we don't have to worry about shorting anything out here right now, but that's a step you want to make sure you do before you start in any electrical work, is disconnecting the battery. I trim this ground wire off so that it's kind of about the same length as the white one. I don't think we need all of that length. And because we don't want to be able to cross wire the DC, polarity matters, I'm going to put a metal terminal on the ground wire, because if it touches anything else in there, it's not going to hurt anything. Okay, that has our two terminals that are going to connect back into the electrical system dealt with. Let's get these last two done. Then before we hook everything up, I think I'm going to do a quick test on this. We'll fire up the machine and we'll see whether we're getting 12 volts. Because who knows, this may have been a massive failure. Now we need to connect up the battery again, and then we'll do a test on this and see what we get. If everything works out all right, then I'll have to grab the heat gun and we'll shrink all this heat shrink. Contact, or as we say in the aviation world, clear. Well, that's not good. Huh. Only getting 2 volts. We're getting something, that's a good sign. And all sorts of smoky exhaust out of the exhaust can. Absolutely. And hopefully you guys can see that. We've got our yellow coming in. And it says pink on here, but it's actually a white wire. And then we've got our red. And we've got our green. And that is how we have it hooked up. Well, I'm wondering if we've got a failed stator in this engine. Because the stator is made up of a bunch of coils that have a magnet going by them. And if only one of, say, 5 coils has a connection, that could explain why we're not getting any not getting enough voltage. Definitely the AC was a little on the low side. I was hoping by the time it did the whole waveform thing that it was going to be giving us enough voltage to give us our 12 volts, but it doesn't appear that that's the case. Well, I think we're going to put a pin in this for tonight. It's getting late here, and we're going to come back at this again in the morning and see if we can figure out a few more things. It's not the end of the world if we have to run this off of the battery. I've got a huge deep cycle group 32 or something, group 28 battery in this. So there's no shortage of electricity to run the engine, run the lights, that kind of thing. But I would really like to get this charging if I can. So we'll continue on with this when we come back at it in the morning. It is the next day, and we've got the cover taken off here to get down to the back side of the motor. And I don't know that I necessarily want to record all the gory details of how we're going to be doing this. I believe I've already done this in a video. With the airbox here, we got the recoil. This is the governor. Over there's a cover for the belt. This is the cover for the starter belt, and also covers up the flywheel. So we've got to get all that stuff off so that we can pop the flywheel off and see what's going on with the stator wiring. I think I'm going to do a little bit of a skip ahead here. As I say, we've already done this in a video, so I don't want to repeat myself. And I'll bring you guys back when I'm ready to pop that flywheel off of there. I'm kind of regretting not recording that now. That really only took me about 10 minutes to tear all that apart. It's almost like I've done it once or twice before. Anyways, we are to the point where we need to take the flywheel off. Let me see what we can do here. Look at the big tugga-tugga. Well, that certainly came off easy. Let me put you guys down because I need both hands, and I'm going to try and get that harmonic balancer puller on there so that we can pop that flywheel off. Well, that was close. We almost got brought to a screeching halt by a lack of a couple of bolts, but we managed to find a couple that will work in the junk bin, and they're just long enough to grab, and I'm even able to use the pointed brass tip on the puller. Let's see if we can convince this thing to pop off without too much work. Well, that certainly was easy. Okay, well, we are here. First thing we are going to do, this is a cam that does your ignition timing, opens and closes the points, and absolutely positively it is just, I think, cast aluminum, and it's very easy to break. So we're going to pull that off of there because it has to go on the flywheel before the flywheel goes back on. So here are our 3 lighting coils. I don't see anything that is terribly concerning there. These kind of look like they've been whacked, and maybe that's caused an internal short. Well, let's pop those suckers off of there and see what it looks like. Of course, you guys probably aren't seeing anything beyond the back of my hand. I'm going to say that they've been squashed and we've got internal shorting. This appears to have worn across the surface here. Each one of these individual wires needs to have insulation on it. And when they've worn through here, they get a little bit of crosstalk going between the wires, and you'll end up losing a whole bunch of your capacity from the coil. So I'm going to say that that is probably not in the best of shape and is probably why we're not getting any voltage. Now, that sucks. We got some shorts going on, some some bare wire here. That could be shorting out against something. Not good, any of this. Definitely problems here, but we're not completely sunk, because somewhere in my messy garage, it's going to take me a bit to find it, but somewhere in my messy garage I have another stator coil for a snow cruiser. And since this is basically the same engine that the snow cruiser uses, I'm hoping that the stator is going to be the same. I think this is where we're going to end this one for today. We've identified where the problem is. Definitely need a new stator. I think I've got one somewhere, so it's going to take me a bit to find it. And we'll do a part 2 on this little charge coil saga. Thanks a lot for stopping by. Greatly appreciate you taking the time to watch the video. Can you give me one of those thumb up things if you got this far? And if you haven't already done so, why don't you try subscribing? There's also some Doug's Messy Garage merch available. Check the links under the video on the YouTube app, or that should take you to my Spreadshop store. If anyone has any other suggestions, what might be causing my charging problem here, by all means leave a comment down below. Thanks a lot for watching, and we'll catch you guys in the next mess.